Uranus does not ask for permission, it shocks. But today, September 6th, that shock changes direction from the outside in. And it is with this sudden and electric energy that we enter the eve of the eclipse. If in recent months you have been surprised by external events, by unexpected turnarounds, or by a feeling that the world around you was changing too fast, that was the signature of Uranus at work in your environment. Today, this same revolutionary force turns inward. The rupture no longer happens out there. It happens in your consciousness. It is the sudden change of perspective, the radical idea that breaks an old pattern of thought, the flash of authenticity that forces you to question everything. It is a process of internal recalibration, and its strangeness is proportional to its importance. It is no coincidence that this turn happens exactly 24 hours before the total lunar eclipse. This internal shock is not a separate event. It is the final preparation. It is the universe shaking our internal structures, revealing the fissures in our beliefs, and showing us where our freedom has been imprisoned, so that the final cut of tomorrow's eclipse may be precise, conscious, and liberating. What we will do now is navigate this shock, not with fear, but with the curiosity of a scientist. We will understand what this electricity means, how to observe it, and how to use it as the most powerful tool of clarity for the verdict that approaches. To understand the change that happens today, we first need to understand the nature of Uranus. Uranus is the great awakener of the zodiac. It is the lightning bolt that tears through the blue sky, the sudden revelation that changes everything, the force of innovation that breaks old and stagnant structures to make way for the future. In recent months, while Uranus has been in its direct motion, this energy has manifested predominantly in the external world. These were the shocks that came from the outside, the unexpected news, the technology that advanced disruptively, the sudden changes at work or in society, the encounters with eccentric people that shook our perspectives, or the events that forced us out of our comfort zone. The feeling was that the world was changing too fast, and our job was to adapt to these external revolutions. Today, September 6th, one of the most important moments in a planet's cycle occurs. Its retrograde station. Think of it as a high-speed train that suddenly hits the brakes, stops, and prepares to start moving in the opposite direction. The moment of the stop, the station, is the point of greatest intensity. It is when the planet's energy concentrates, intensifies, and becomes undeniably perceptible. Today, the revolutionary force of Uranus stops for an instant in the sky, and this pause marks the great turn. The direction of the lightning bolt changes. It stops falling out there and begins to echo in here. It is here that your key phrase becomes our guide. What was once explosion becomes reflection. The same energy that shocked us with external events now becomes internalized. The shock becomes a flash of consciousness. The revolution ceases to be social and becomes personal. The questions we once asked about the world, we now begin to ask about ourselves. The focus of Uranus retrograde is the radical review of our own internal structures. It is no longer about how the world needs to change, but about how I need to change. It is a 5-month invitation to a journey of self-liberation. And today is the first step, the moment when the door to this internal review opens with a bang. This period of reflection is not passive, it is electric. Uranus retrograde forces us to look at the areas of our lives where we have abdicated our own freedom and authenticity. It illuminates our self-imposed prisons, the fears that prevent us from innovating, the limiting beliefs that keep us tied, to a past that no longer serves us, the social rules we follow without question. The main question this energy brings us is, where in my life am I not being truly me? The sudden restlessness, the intolerance for what is false or restrictive, the need to break a personal pattern. All of this is Uranus retrograde at work. It does not want to destroy us. It wants to free us from ourselves. It wants us to remember our unique spark, our individual genius, and to have the courage to rewrite our own rules. This internal shock, this call to personal revolution, is the dominant energy that sets in today. And as we will see, it is the perfect tool for the work that tomorrow's eclipse will ask of us. In astrology, as in life, synchronicity is the language of purpose. Nothing happens by chance. The fact that Uranus, the planet of sudden ruptures, stops in the sky and begins its retrograde on the exact eve of one of the most potent lunar eclipses of the year is not a coincidence. It is an act of deliberate cosmic choreography. It is the universe creating a specific configuration to ensure that the week's message is delivered with maximum clarity and impact. These two events are not independent. They were designed to work together as a preparation and a climax. The internal shock of Uranus today is what prepares the ground and sharpens the tool for the work of conclusion of tomorrow's eclipse. Think of them as two acts of the same play, and today we are living the first, which sets the entire stage for the resolution that follows. To understand this partnership, let's use our central analogy. Uranus opens the fissures. The eclipse closes the contract. Let's delve deeper into this. The work of Uranus retrograde, which begins today, is to create fissures in our internal structures. These are not fissures of destruction, but of revelation. The shock of Uranus is a bolt of lucidity that illuminates the cracks that already exist in our beliefs, in our identity, in our relationships. It is that sudden moment of clarity when you look at your life and think, this no longer makes sense. I can't go on like this anymore. It is the radical idea that breaks an old pattern of thought. It is the inconvenient truth that arises from the depths of your consciousness and that once seen can no longer be ignored. Uranus does not create the flaw. It merely exposes it with a light so bright that denial becomes impossible. Its job today is this: to reveal where your internal foundations are fragile, where your authenticity has been compromised, where your freedom is asking for passage. And then tomorrow, the eclipse arrives to finish the job. If Uranus's function is to reveal the fissure, that of the lunar eclipse in Pisces is to close the contract. Eclipses are portals of finalization. They bring the energy of conclusion, of emotional release, of the definitive cut that ends a chapter. The energy of the eclipse is what gives us the emotional strength and spiritual determination to make a decision about the fissures that Uranus has revealed. It is important to understand the quality of this Piscean closure. It is not a cold, logical ending, like a business contract. It is a dissolution, a surrender, an act of yielding to a higher truth. If Uranus showed you today that a belief about yourself is false, tomorrow's eclipse will give you the strength to feel the liberation of abandoning that belief forever. If Uranus gave you the flash that a relationship has reached its limit, the eclipse will give you the energy to process the grief and initiate the closure on a soul level. The eclipse takes the intellectual and electric revelation of Uranus and transforms it into a deep and healing emotional release. This combination works as a powerful accelerator of evolution. Without the prior shock of Uranus, the eclipse's energy might be felt more vaguely, more confusingly, like a wave of emotion without a clear focus. And without the finalizing force of the eclipse, the flashes of Uranus could remain just radical ideas without the driving force to transform into real change. Together, they ensure that the change is both clear and definitive. Think of this in the most practical way possible. Uranus is the high-precision diagnosis that happens today. It shows you the X-ray of your soul, pointing out exactly where the surgery is necessary. Tomorrow's eclipse is the surgery itself, performed with the emotional force and grace of Piscean release. What Uranus reveals today is the exact raw material with which the eclipse will work tomorrow. Therefore, pay close attention to your insights and your internal revelations today. They are not random thoughts. They are your personal guide, your strategic briefing for the powerful and liberating work of conclusion that awaits you. Uranus does not communicate through gentle whispers. Its language is that of shock, of interruption, of the lightning bolt that undeniably illuminates the night sky. In the days leading up to its retrograde dive, and especially today on the day of its station, our system begins to tune into this new electric and internal frequency. The result is a series of signs that may seem random, chaotic, or even frustrating, but which are, in fact, proof that a profound recalibration is underway. They are not signs that something is wrong. They are the symptoms that you are being updated to a new version of yourself. Your job is to learn to read this language of disruption, not as chaos, but as a code. The first and most literal of these signs are technological glitches with symbolic timing. Uranus rules electricity, the internet, technology, and all that is innovative. When its energy is as concentrated as it is now, it can literally affect the electrical field around us. Your phone, whose battery suddenly dies in the middle of an important conversation. The computer that crashes before you save a crucial file. The internet that drops precisely when you are about to make a decision online. Our initial reaction is frustration, but the Uranian perspective invites us to look at the timing. Why was the pause forced at that exact moment? Often the failure in the external machine is an invitation to look at our internal programming. The interruption forces us to stop the autopilot, to breathe, and perhaps to reconsider the action we were about to take. It is the universe using the language of Uranus to tell us, stop, think again. There is another perspective here. The second sign is purely mental. Ideas that arrive like a flash and disappear quickly. This is one of the purest and most volatile gifts of Uranus retrograde. Out of nowhere, in the middle of a mundane task, your mind can be struck by a bolt of genius, a solution to a problem that has been tormenting you for months, a vision for a completely innovative new project, or a sudden and radical understanding of a pattern in your life. The idea arrives whole, perfect, electrifying. It seems to be the key to everything. However, the energy of Uranus is like lightning. It illuminates everything for a second and then disappears with the same speed with which it arrived. If you do not capture this idea the moment it comes, it can dissipate back into the ether, leaving only the vague memory that you had a great epiphany. This is a test of presence. Your task is to be prepared. Have a notebook, your phone's voice recorder, anything. When the flash comes, record it. Do not analyze it, do not judge it, just capture it. This idea is not a common thought. It is a direct transmission from your future self. A glimpse of your most authentic and free timeline. The third sign manifests in the social field. Conversations or situations that seem to disorganize, but that only want to show you where you need to review. Uranus loves to break rigid structures, including our plans and our conversations. You might enter a meeting with a clear agenda, and suddenly an unexpected comment from someone takes the conversation in a completely different and chaotic direction. A plan that seemed perfect for your day may be suddenly turned upside down by an unforeseen event. Our tendency is to try to force the situation back into order, to return to the original plan. But the lesson of Uranus here is different. Often, this disorganization is precisely what is necessary for a more creative solution or a deeper truth to emerge. The momentary chaos serves to break the rigidity of our thinking and force us to improvise, to find a new path. Instead of resisting the disorganization, ask yourself, what new possibility is this confusion trying to show me? Where was my original plan too limiting? Welcoming the shock of the interruption is what allows us to find the genius that often hides on the other side of chaos. Now that you understand the nature of the internal shock and can identify its signs, we arrive at the heart of our preparation. The most practical and undoubtedly the most important part of all. How do you navigate, moment by moment, a day when the ground of our psyche seems to be trembling? How do you handle sudden revelations and chaotic interruptions without getting lost in reactivity? The answer lies in a golden rule, a directive that is simple in its formulation but requires immense discipline and wisdom in its application. If you remember nothing else, remember this. The rule for today, September 6th, is record, do not decide. I repeat, so there is no doubt, your only task today is to record. Your main prohibition is to decide. This is the anchor that will keep you safe in the midst of Uranus's electric storm. It is what will differentiate an experience of destructive chaos from one of revolutionary clarity. Let's delve into each part of this rule. The first part is a command: record. Think of yourself today not as the protagonist of your life, but as the scientist, the investigator, the journalist who is documenting a rare and fascinating phenomenon. The flashes of ideas, the sudden truths, the disruptive conversations, the technological glitches, all of this is raw data. It is pure, unfiltered information that is emerging from your deepest self or from the quantum field. It has not yet been processed by your logical mind, nor integrated by your emotional heart. Trying to act on this raw data immediately is like trying to build a house with wet cement. The structure will inevitably collapse. Your job is that of a seismograph, to record the intensity and the timing of the tremor without trying to rebuild the city while the ground is still shaking. How is this recording done in a practical way? Always have a capture tool with you. It could be a notebook, which we can call your lightning journal. In it, you will not write long emotional reflections. You will capture the data in its purest form. The idea that came, write it down with the exact words with which it appeared in your mind. The conversation that disorganized you, write down the key phrase that impacted you the most. The synchronicity that repeated, note it down. If you are more auditory, use your phone's voice recorder. When the flash of consciousness comes, record yourself describing it with all the energy of the moment. The important thing is to get the information out of your head and into an external format. This act of recording does two things. First, it validates the experience, telling your intuition, "I am listening." Second, it frees your mind from the pressure of having to remember everything, allowing you to remain in a more relaxed state of observation. Your only function is to be a good documentarian of your own awakening. The second part of the rule is a prohibition, and it is even more important: do not decide. The energy of a planetary station, like Uranus's, is by definition unstable, volatile, and unpredictable. The ground is moving. Making a final and binding decision today is the equivalent of trying to plant a flag in the middle of an earthquake. The decision that seems brilliant and perfectly clear under the electric light of a Uranian flash may prove to be reckless and misaligned when the dust settles tomorrow. Today's energy is for revelation, not for execution. Impulsivity is the biggest trap of this transit. The urge to do something with the truth you have just discovered is immense. It is the urge to send the message, to quit the job, to end the relationship, to commit to the new project. Resist this impulse with all your strength. Not deciding is not an act of passivity or cowardice. On the contrary, it is the height of strategic wisdom. It is the recognition that the information you are receiving today, however true it may be, is still incomplete. It is the what, but it is not yet the how or the when. By refusing to decide today, you give yourself the gift of time. The time for the initial shock to pass, for the information to integrate, and for your heart, which will be activated by tomorrow's eclipse, to give its opinion. True strength lies in the ability to hold the tension of uncertainty for another 24 hours, knowing that a decision made with the mind, heart, and intuition aligned tomorrow will be infinitely more powerful and sustainable than a decision made only by the electric mind of today. The joining of these two practices is what transforms the shock of Uranus into usable information. Today, you are the investigator who collects the clues record. You examine them, you catalog them, but you do not reach a conclusion. Do not decide. Tomorrow, with the arrival of the eclipse, you will take this dossier of clues to the tribunal of your heart, and there, in the emotional clarity of the full moon, the final truth will be revealed and the verdict can be given. By following this rule, you cease to be a victim of chaos and become a master of alchemy, transforming the unpredictable shock of today into the liberating clarity of tomorrow. Your preparation is complete. You now understand the nature of the lightning bolt that today turns inward. You have learned to identify its signs, from the glitches in technology to the flashes of genius in your mind. And above all, you have received the golden rule that will guide you safely through this electrical turbulence. Record, do not decide. Wisdom today is not in action, but in the quality of your observation. Every insight you write down, every reactive impulse you contain, is an act of power. You are collecting the raw data of your own internal revolution, the raw material with which tomorrow's clarity will be built. Uranus challenges. The eclipse concludes. Today, the invitation is for you to sit with the discomfort of what has ruptured within you, with the excitement of what is being born, and simply witness. Embrace your role as the serene observer of your own awakening process. There is nothing to fear, as today's shock is just the preface to tomorrow's liberation. The fissures that are opening now are where the light will enter. Trust the process. Trust its timing. Tomorrow, the verdict arrives. If this guide has served as an anchor for you in this intense energy, and if you commit to being the conscious observer of your own recalibration, anchor that intention. Like this video, share it with someone who needs a guide to get through their own internal shock, and declare your commitment to this powerful practice in the comments. I record the internal change. And don't forget to subscribe, as the work of integration will continue. Together, we will learn to build upon the new ground that these events are creating.